Welcome to the Final Score Network and the Final Score Podcast, presented by Team Anders Realtors. I'm Andy. He's former NCAA student athlete and co-host.
Ryan, jam! Two-hand monster flush! Off the inbound. Ryan, cam, slam, jam.
Subscribe to us on Podbean, the Apple Podcast Store, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at TheFinalScore35 and TikTok at AGSpartanFan35. Oh, and one more note before we get started.
I'd like to apologize to anyone I've not offended yet. Please be patient. I'll get to you shortly.
Welcome into the Final Score Podcast, episode 171, draft special. I'm here with my great friend, Riley Fairfield. This is year 4 of us doing this draft special. That's crazy to say. Welcome in, Riley. We're Andy-less today. He's in a different country, actually. He's in Toronto, so and he doesn't really doesn't know much about the draft anyways, doesn't choose to, he just listens to us anyways, so here we are. We're back. Riley, good to have you again.
Yeah, good to be back on. Am I the only 4-time listener?
You were
4-time.
I think we've had one. We've had a few other guests. I don't think we've had any, actually, even multiple. So you're in a stratosphere of your own there.
Rare air.
Yes, you are in rare air. Nevertheless, we have 32 picks to be made. Thursday night draft's coming. Detroit. Get down there if you want. You can go. It'd be crazy. I don't think the weather's supposed to be great, but whatever. We're going to go through picks 1 through 32, talk about players, maybe some fits, some position needs, trades that we could see happening, stuff like that. So, without further ado, I guess we can get into this thing. The Chicago Bears are number 1 on the clock Thursday night. There's kind of a consensus with what they're looking at, and I'll have Riley lead us off with each team, and then we can kind of go from there, talk about guys and what we think is going to go on here. So, without further ado, the Chicago Bears, you are on the clock.
Yeah, so I think everybody's kind of been thinking that it's going to be Caleb Williams, which I agree. I think it's going to ultimately be Caleb Williams.
Mm-hmm.
There's a real thing called prospect fatigue, which I think we'll get into a little bit later on with a guy that I'll talk about later. But, there's been some smoke. J.J. McCarthy, super hot name. Maybe his friend Jim is trying to, play some games at the top of the draft. But ultimately, I think they've, you see videos of Ryan Poles, which is the Bears GM, dapping up Caleb Williams and at pro days, and I think they actually have a real relationship now. So I think it's going to be Caleb Williams, and he's the notes that I kind of put on this pick where he's a presumptive number 1 pick. Everybody's kind of talking about it to the point where the draft isn't even it doesn't start until you get to the later picks, right? And I think I put some fit notes. Chicago really needs a star to deliver to their new weapons. I don't know if you remember, but Keenan Allen got added to the roster. They brought back Cole Kmet. Their defense is much more improved. They really invested some big time money into some players. Justin Fields, he couldn't get it done through the air. He was deadly on the ground. I think against the Lions, which not a great defense, but rushed for over 120 yards both times. Caleb is just incredibly creative. He's similar to Patrick Mahomes in that way. I don't know how many times I've seen him just be dead to rights, and then he scrambles for 7, 8, 9 yards for a first down. So he's going to be able to make those plays. And I did put a couple concerns on there. He wasn't necessarily a big-time winner at USC. He had great teams. Their defense was not good. Their defense was pretty horrible, actually.
Awful.
And he put up big numbers, but, is the drama going to get to him? Is he going to be kind of a drama queen? Is he going to be just, high maintenance? Really, those are the questions. But if he can come in and be professional, I think it's a true number 1. He's going to knock it out of the park.
Yeah, and I agree. I think he's the surefire number 1 pick here, and for many, for 2 years ongoing, ever since he won the Heisman last year with USC, the year before when he came in as a true freshman for Spencer Rattler and was really good for Oklahoma. People drooled over him. Is he a great talent? Absolutely. him off schedule, like you said, he finds ways to just make plays out of nothing, just extemporaneously, just getting outside the pocket, scrambling around, throwing off his back foot. He's got a really good arm. He's pretty fast. I don't know. He's had a little bit of injury history. He had a little bit, I think he had ankle at USC in his sophomore year. Wasn't quite as good last year as he was the year before with USC. But he's really good. I do have concerns with him, though. I think that he is a bit of a drama king, like you said. Just kind of spotlight guy, me. Will it work out? Maybe. Do I want it to work out? No, because he plays for going to play for the Bears, obviously. But I think he's definitely the number one pick in this draft. I think it's not even close. But we'll see what happens with him after Thursday night. Only time will tell. Which brings us to our second pick. The Commanders, you are on the clock. Needs quarterback. This is per PFF, which we both used here. Quarterback, tight end, guard, tackle, edge, DB. So lots and lots and lots of needs for Washington. Where do you see him going, Riley?
Yeah, I mean, I think the pick here is going to be quarterback. I think it's kind of, you're in a quarterback heavy. You have really you got 6 quarterbacks, but like 4 of them that are surefire going to go, I think, in the top 5.
Yep.
Maybe even, stretch it to 6. But I think they go Jaden Daniels. That is my pick. There's been talk about, whether it's going to be JJ or Drake May or Jaden Daniels. Those are probably the 3 picks that you can go at number 2. And it's so crazy. Sam Howell, the quarterback for the Commanders currently, threw for almost 4,000 yards last year.
Yeah, he was fine. He was on his ass a lot.
He was on his backside all the time. Couldn't really, a lot of the off schedule throws that you're talking about. But he threw for almost 4,000 yards, 63% completion percentage. But the issue, 21 interceptions. You're going to get a little bit of that with Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, I think, has more of a live arm. He's more mobile than Sam Howell.
Very mobile.
He's very similar to Caleb in that way. Like I said, it could easily be Drake May or JJ McCarthy, but the fit with Jaden Daniels, I think, seems better for the Commanders, especially with their style of play. You have Terry McLaurin. You have some guys that can make plays. You just need to get a playmaker to get them the ball. So I kind of trend towards Jaden Daniels. I think he was really, really good. The questions for me are going to be, durability. He's super skinny.
Yes, he's very skinny.
He needs to put on weight. If he gets hit by some of these grown men in the NFL, I think he's going to feel it. And, if he can stay healthy, I think this pick, some people were talking about him going number 1. So, I mean, I think this pick is going to be great if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, I agree. I picked Daniels as well for Washington. I just think he fits well, right? Like you said, Cliff Kingsbury's their new offensive coordinator. He's more of a, spread type, mobile quarterback type. He, was with Arizona, is with Kyler, Texas Tech, always that type of, live arm, mobile quarterback type, get outside the pocket, make reads, run if you have to. I think Daniels is obviously won the Heisman last year. Really solid prospect. I mean, there are some air quotation character issues or flaws. If you hadn't heard, there's a controversy going around that the Commanders brought in Daniels, May, presumably McCarthy and Penix as well, all on one visit, and he did not enjoy that. He wants to be known that he's the second guy in this draft, not anybody else. But he's really good. But we'll see what happens if he can stay healthy. I remember watching this guy his freshman year. He tore apart Michigan State the 10-7 finish in East Lansing, and he just was running all over the place. I'm like, damn, that guy's really good. Mm-hmm. And then he ended up being really good at LSU after transferring, and here he is, a top 2 pick in the NFL draft. But I think he could be really good for them. Like you said, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, there's a lot of guys in Washington that are pretty solid. And they have a new coach in Dan Quinn. So could be interesting. And I think that's their guy. We're 2 for 2 on quarterbacks on a very sneak peek offensive heavy first round and maybe draft. Maybe the most offensive heavy draft we have seen in quite some time. which leads us to our third pick, the New England Patriots. Quarterback, receiver, tackle, edge, new coach. Belichick era's over. Jared Mayo comes in. Is he going to continue the Patriot way? He says no. I don't believe that for a second because he's a disciple of one Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are you thinking here?
You know, you said you were 2 for 2 for quarterbacks. I'm going 3 for 3.
Yep.
I think that they take a quarterback. Now the biggest question is, with them left, are they going to go J.J. McCarthy or Drake May? You know, the Patriots have had kind of a back and forth. Last year's Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi,
Yep.
and it was going back and forth, and it just seemed like none of them could break out. And then one of the first things they do this offseason is they sign back. Who'd they sign back? Jacoby Brissett.
Yes.
So they brought Jacoby Brissett back, and I think he was on the Commanders last year, and they brought him back, and everyone's going, "Why are you bringing him back on a deal? Are you bringing him back to be a backup?" You know, nobody knew. I think it was one of the first moves they made. You know, Ryan mentioned that they brought back Gerard Mayo. Is he going to go defensive heavy? Does he want to go? I don't know. He could be surprised, but I just think quarterback is too big of a need. They have guys. They have guys in place. They brought some people. They got Antonio Gibson from the Commanders. They got Austin Hooper from the Raiders. They brought in KJ Osborne for the Vikings.
Yeah, so, they get some solid pieces.
Yeah, complimentary pieces, but they lost Devontae Parker. They lost Mike Gesicki. They lost a couple guys that, you know, like Trent Brown, he's a tackle. You know, they lost some big-name guys that I think could start elsewhere. So they could really go a multitude of ways. But I have them picking Drake May. Drake May is my selection. He's kind of got that prototypical NFL style as a quarterback. He's a pro style. He can run when he needs to. He can use his legs, but you don't see him breaking off for 60, 70 yard runs.
He's
like
not
Caleb
that kind of
Jaden.
guy.
So he's much more, you know, you can kind of compare him to Mac Jones. Much more athletic than Zappi or Jones. So it's already an upgrade on the athlete part. And I think he's got way more of a live arm than both of them. And he had some weapons at North Carolina, which helped him. However, he's used to playing without an offensive line.
Yeah.
And I think that's just going to help him in the NFL because the Patriots, offensive line, not great. So he's going to take probably a year or two, but I think prototypically you can kind of compare him to like a Trevor Lawrence, a Joe Burrow. Maybe not as good, but just similar play styles, pro style.
Yes, very pro style. I have the same. 3 for 3 on quarterbacks. Drake May, North Carolina guy. I think he can be a pretty solid quarterback in this league. We've had a lot of guys to this mold. I think that he's a chance to be successful because he was coached by a really good coach in Mac Brown, played a quarterback, friendly pro style with a little bit of spread system in college, and I think that's going to pay off for him. I really do. And the Patriots, I think they could maybe go offensive line, but I think they really go quarterback here, and we're 3 for 3 on quarterbacks, which hasn't happened in quite some time. Brings to the Arizona Cardinals receiver, center, guard, defensive line, cornerback. They need help for Kyler Murray because he came back at the end of last year. He was actually okay, but the Cardinals were just not very good in Jonathan Gannon's first year last year, and they're looking to improve in a division that's one of the toughest in football with the Rams. The 49ers, obviously a perennial, and then Seattle's been really good for the last few years as well, really dating back to early 2010. So what do we got for Arizona?
Yeah, for Arizona, the first thing I want to do is kind of preface my pick is I want to read a couple names off to you and see if anybody recognizes these names. Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Zach Pascal, Chris Moore, Dan Chisena, Jeff Smith, Daniel Arias, and Caden Davis. Any of those names ring a bell, Ryan?
I know a couple of those names just because I'm a sports nut, but that's really the last few I'd never heard of them.
So that is the wide receiver depth chart for the Cardinals. They don't have a single big name. They lost Hollywood Brown. They lost guys like Zach Ertz in the past. They've lost a lot of weapons. They have nobody. Kyler was a problem, but they brought him back. He actually wasn't horrible last year, and it didn't matter. There were wide receivers. They couldn't catch the ball. They couldn't do anything. I mean, you look at some of their stats, and you're looking at total offensive efficiency, 26th. Pass efficiency offensively is 28th.
Yeah.
Pass EPA, so effective, what is it? It's effective passing attempts or something, but their pass EPA offensively was 31st, which is, it might have been expected
points added.
Yeah, expected points. So basically the 31st in the league when they go on a drive and points
that's
off
really
the drive.
bad.
You know, their quarterback accuracy was down 32, last in the league. Explosive pass offense, 28th in the league. So you're looking at the bottom 10th of the league in all of these, and the NFL's a passing league, so you're looking at the bottom 10th. You need weapons. Kyler is good at kind of creating for himself, but they need somebody to throw the ball to. So, long story short, I have the Cardinals taking Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Maserati Marv. I think he is just the best wideout in the class. He is another one. Like I mentioned earlier, prospect fatigue.
Yes.
You have a lot of Malik Neighbors. You have a lot of Romo Dunes. A lot of some of these wideouts coming in, and you know, is Marvin Harrison the best prospect? Well, he has been for the last 2.5 years.
Yes.
So why would he not be now? So I mean, you look at him. He's 6'4". He has a crazy vertical. He's better than his Hall of Fame dad. And he's really good. He tore up. I mean, you look at the best pass defense in the country, it was Michigan. Tore Michigan up. He just had not a great quarterback.
Yep.
So you're looking at a guy that is just going to go plug and play, and he could easily go 1,000 yards in his first season.
Yeah.
But he's going to be the number one right away, and I think the fit, it just seems too perfect.
Yeah, I have the same. He's a beast. I mean, you know, the critics saying, "Oh, you know, he didn't do the combine. He didn't do this. He didn't do that." I don't care. This guy is I think he's honestly the prospect with the most upside in this draft, just off pure talent alone. This guy, I mean, he works too. I mean, his dad, obviously a Hall of Famer. Kid's a beast, man, and he's had some injuries. He had the head injury against Georgia. Who knows? Like, if he doesn't get hurt in that game, they probably beat Georgia in the playoff in 2022.
Left in the early third quarter. He's
a game changer, man. He's a possession guy. He can be a deep threat. He can run. He can run after the catch. He's a fun player to watch, and I think Arizona fans are going to be very, very happy that they have him to have Kyler throw the ball to, because their offense can't get much worse, and this guy makes it more fun. So that's for the Cardinals. Let's go to next pick, number 5. The Los Angeles Chargers, now headed by Him Jarbaugh with his new tattoo that looks like a third grader did it. Running back, receiver, tight end, defensive line, linebacker, corner, lots of needs for a team that just they were not very good last year. I mean, they have Justin Herbert, who is a really, really talented guy. He just has never put it all together. He's had bad defenses. He's had bad coaching with Brandon Staley, bad offensive line. Guys get hurt, whatever. They're on the clock here at 5, and there's a rumor they might be trading, maybe staying put. Who knows what Jim's going to do? What are we thinking here, Riley?
Yeah, you kind of prefaced it right there. I personally, we didn't add trades into this in our mock drafts, but if we could, I just have a gut feeling that it's like a 90% chance that they move. They have too many needs. They can get a lot of draft capital for the 5th pick, especially with J.J. McSizzle still on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So I would expect someone, for example, like the Vikings or the Raiders or the Broncos, more quarterback-heavy teams that need a quarterback to move up. I think that, for this instance, Ryan mentioned running back. You can't take a running back top 5.
And there's no backs that you even would want to take.
There's no Saquon Barkley, right, to take in the top 5. You can't. And I just don't think running back is such a high priority, Did they return Austin Eckler?
Yes, he's back.
If they returned Austin Eckler, then running back, that can be addressed later on in the draft. Right now, I have them staying put because we didn't do any trades, but I have them taking Malik Neighbors.
I like that.
We mentioned it. Malik Neighbors has been climbing up draft boards for a while now. They need a wide receiver. Mike Williams just got released. So they need a new, and Keenan Allen's not on the team
Yeah, he's
anymore.
gone.
So they need a weapon. You have a young quarterback, and think about it this way: Justin Herbert is still on his rookie deal, right? Or
yes, he is. Yeah,
at least he's still on his rookie deal. He's expected to make more, but they need to grab a cheap weapon that they can control for 5 years while they have Justin Herbert on his rookie deal. You hear all these things with the Chargers. Justin Herbert would be this good if he had X, if he had Y, if he had
always.
Z.
That's always
the conversation. It's like, if Justin Herbert had the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, he would be doing the same thing. I'm sure that's true, but the case is it's not. The Chargers are in salary cap nightmare. They need cheap options. They need cheap weapons.
Yeah.
And I just think this fit is great. Malik Neighbors is a really good player. LSU could have made the argument that he could have won the Biletnikoff, which is the best wide receiver in college football. Deep threat, great route runner. He has got the mentality of a number one wide receiver, and I think he fits that right for the Chargers.
Yeah, I like him. I watched him play a couple times last year. Great body control. Just a really good receiver. And I honestly think they could go receiver, but I'm a firm believer that Jim Harbaugh has a infatuation with the trenches. And without trades here, staying put, I think they take the best offensive lineman in this draft. That's right. Joe Alt from Notre Dame. Guy's been really good for a long time. And I think Harbaugh wants to build from the inside out. Look what he did at Michigan. Why was Michigan so successful in the last 3 seasons? Offensive line play, defensive line play. They won in the trenches and kind of, filled holes where they needed to on the outside. And I think that's what we're going to do here with Alt. Bring him in and start him right away, and whether it be right tackle, he can play guard possibly, but he projects more as a tackle. Nice player, and I think Harbaugh is ecstatic about this one, getting the Notre Dame guy, tackle Midwest.
And it's great pairing too with Rashawn Slater.
Yes,
Rashawn Slater is a plug-in. He's already extremely good.
He's very good
at left tackle, so you can plug in Joe Alt at right. I think Joe Alt's true left tackle, but you could plug him in at right. I mean, they have a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, Trey Pipkins.
Yes, I remember that name.
So Trey Pipkins, but then they have other guys like they brought in Bradley Bozeman for center.
Yep, I know that.
Corey Lindsley is often hurt, but they need offensive line help. I mean, they need help anywhere. So yes, I think that's a great pick. I mean, that's definitely something that they could do.
And then we go to the New York Football Giants, picking number 6, quarterback, receiver, guard, tackle, defensive line, linebacker, defensive back, lots of needs in the NYC, actually the NYJ, New Jersey. I don't know what they do here. I obviously have a pick, but is it quarterback? Like, is Daniel Jones the guy? Do they go defense? I don't. What's their coach? Dable. He's weird. He confuses me. I think he's a weird guy. So anything's possible with him. But what do you think they end up going with here?
I mean, their needs are insane. They have quarterback, wide receiver, probably guard, tackle, basically their entire offense. I mean, Darren Waller was their starting tight end. Is he retaring? Is he not?
Yeah, seriously.
Their quarterback play, they gave Daniel Jones all that money, $40+ million a year, and then next thing you know, he breaks his neck, and he's just not. He's not the same. Like he can't play. Tommy DeVito comes in. Yes, good story. Tommy Cutlets. He was great story, but he's not an NFL quarterback.
No,
the only reason he was good is because nobody had film on him. They have so many needs, but I stay true to this: is that the most important player on the team is the quarterback, and you need one. You can't just go into a season without one. Tommy DeVito is not a quarterback. So I actually have them taking J.J. McCarthy.
Wow.
J.J. McSizzle at number 6 overall. And I wrote down some of the notes is if you need a quarterback, you can't really afford to pass up on the options. If they truly have a grade on J.J. that is much higher than Michael Penix or Bo Nix, the quarterbacks remaining, they have to take them.
Yeah, you're right.
You just have to do it. And JJ's very talented. He's got the arm strength. He's got the accuracy. But I have a couple concerns, and this is not just because I'm a Michigan State fan, but because of my the concerns that I have are that he hasn't really been asked to do a whole lot. He was asked to throw the ball, light load in college, asked to throw the ball maybe 20 times a game. If you remember when they played Penn State, they completely gave up the pass. It was kind of, the narrative was kind of switched to, oh, we're just going to pound it down their throats. But if you remember the beginning of the game, they couldn't stop guys like Chop Robinson, Adisa Isaac. They couldn't stop anyone from rushing the passer, and JJ was getting crushed. So I just think that, they need a quarterback. They need him on a 5-year rookie deal to be able to control. I think he's got the talent. They just need to be able to build around him. They have young tackles. They're not very good, but at least they're young. And I just think, the wide receiving core with the Giants caliber is, you can add a wide receiver in there, but is that really going to make a difference as Tommy DeVito's throwing the ball?
Right.
So I have J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, I could totally see that happening. It would not surprise me. I'm going to go a little different, stick on the same side of the ball. But like I said, Daboll's a weird guy. I think he's going to draft just a receiver, and it's Rome Odunze. Guy, I've seen him in person. You have too, Riley.
Yep.
He is phenomenal. Like, he's really, really good. He's big. He's fast. He's got body control, good route runner. Like, he's the real deal. Does he need a good quarterback to throw to him? Absolutely. But I think the guy he's phenomenal.
He's great.
And I think that the Giants won't pass up on him because he's this good. And they have no receiver. Like, their best receiver is Darius Slayton. Like, come on. He'd be like the number 3 on the Lions. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's my 6th. We move to number 7, the Tennessee Titans on the clock. Receiver, guard, tackle, edge, defensive back are their needs. Bad season for them last year. What are we thinking here? Will Levis is your guy. That's kind of weird to say.
Yeah, I just think, ahead of the 2024 draft, they drafted Will Levis. Malik did not work out.
Yeah, Willis is not.
Malik Willis did not work out. So they doubled down and went with Will Levis. He slid. He was the guy sitting in the green room expecting to get drafted top 10.
Yep,
the next thing you know, his girlfriend is consoling him on night 2. So I just think they have a lot of needs. I think if they truly want to build around their rookie quarterback, they need to help him. So I have them taking a left tackle. Ryan had this guy going already earlier, but I have them taking Joe Alt from Notre Dame.
Love it.
I mean, the Titans badly need protection.
Yes,
they need a plug-and-play guy, not one that's a project. They need a guy that's going to be immediately good. Will Levis was good when he was kept clean. He was not good when he was on his backside the whole time, and that's kind of what happened. I think, like I said, Joe Alt would be a plug-and-play starter at left tackle. I think that he's a true left tackle. He can also play right. But I like him better at left, and there's no reason to avoid beating a dead horse. I think that they just need to help protect him.
Yeah, they need help on that line, and I'm going to take who I think's the best tackle available now. I think that they ultimately do go tackle because they really do need help in the trenches, and that's Olu Fashanu from Penn State. Is he raw? Yes. Yep. Is he big? Absolutely. There are some concerns there. Not a lot of pass pro reps. Kind of newer to the game. Raw, like I said. But he's really athletic. I think he can be really good for them. It just might take a little time. But I don't think they're in a win now situation. Really, I feel like there's kind of a rebuild with getting rid of Derrick Henry. Tannehill's gone. So, yeah, we'll see. But I like Fashanu going 7th to the Tennessee Titans. This brings us to our pick number 8, the Atlanta Falcons. Draft needs of defensive line in cornerback. Brought in Kirk Cousins this offseason, so quarterback not a need, or is it? You hear the rumor going around that they want to draft a quarterback for the future in this draft to wait in the wings behind Kirk. I think that'd be a huge mistake with the amount of money that they're paying him, and they have Des Ridder. I think Heineke's still on the roster. Like, they have quarterbacks. They don't really need another one. But yeah, who do you think the boys in the A are going to draft here? Number 8.
I mean, you always think with the Falcons. I don't know how many times I've heard, get Bijan the ball, or Kyle Pitts just doesn't have a quarterback. They have all these weapons. They had Cordero Patterson.
Yep.
So what do? They bring in Kirk Cousins, a guy that can get those guys the ball. Then they double down and they go, you know what? Let's go grab Darnell Mooney. Let's go grab Charlie Werner. He's he's a tight end, good athlete. But they're bringing in Ray McLeod, another wide receiver.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
A good returner. But they have guys that they're bringing in to help build around an aging Kirk Cousins, even though we love him. I personally think they're going to go defensive side of the ball. I think they need a primary edge rusher. I feel like every single mock draft I've seen this person's name for Atlanta at 8. He's a freak athlete. His numbers, as a defensive end, ran a 4.46 40-yard dash. He had a 40.5-inch vertical jump, a 10-foot 7-inch broad jump, and he's 6'3", 250. He's got crazy arm length. He's got a plus wingspan. And that guy's Dallas Turner. I think it just makes so much sense.
You're thinking.
It's a perfect fit. I think he kind of just fits what they want. Freak athletes. Kyle Pitts is a freak athlete. Bijan Robinson's a freak athlete. You're getting all of these guys that just fit the Falcons mold.
Yes.
I was originally going with another edge, but I will get to him later. But I think Dallas Turner just makes too much sense.
Echo everything you said. Dallas Turner's the guy. First defensive guy off the board. Really good, fast. Played with Will Anderson. He's kind of in the shadows of him for 2 years, and then comes on really good last year. Just a solid player, man. I mean, he's plug and play. He'll get you, probably 7 to 10 sacks.
Yeah.
Just a solid player. And he's what they need. They need edge rush. Their defense has been terrible. They brought in Raheem Morris to be a defensive, stalwart for them as head coach. He coached there in the past. I like Dallas Turner there. I think for some reason Pro Football Focus has him like way down the list as like prospect ranking. There were talks about him last year around this time, him being like a top 3 pick. I mean, he's really good. So that's who we both have Atlanta getting, and then moves us to number 9. The Chicago Bears back on the clock. Quarterback, address that. Receiver, D-line, those are their other 2 glaring needs. I really think that this is going to be an offensive-heavy draft for the Bears, especially early on. What are you thinking here, Rye?
Yeah, I think the defense was actually pretty good. They definitely, the second half of the season after they brought in Montez Sweat.
Yes, got a lot better.
They got a lot better. They got that additional edge rusher. They had the 2 really good linebackers in Tremaine Edmonds, and then he used to play for Philly.
Yeah, why am I forgetting his name? I know. What's his name?
Edwards. TJ Edwards? Is that what it is?
TJ, yes.
I think it's TJ Edwards, but both of them picked off Jared Goff, so that's probably why I remember their name. But they have a top corner pick. They have a top corner in Jalen Johnson. I mean, they've got guys.
Yeah, they do have some nice spots.
Jaquan Brisker at safety. They have talent on defense. Like you said, offensive heavy draft. This guy's still on the board for me. I know Ryan picked him earlier, which is I think also a fit. But I have Romo Dunes, the wide receiver from Washington, going to the Bears, and that kind of scares me as a Lions fan because you're trotting out DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Romo Dunes, and then Cole Kmet. And what a perfect scenario to put Caleb in.
He's got weapons galore, man.
Weapons galore. You're giving him a chance to have some growing pains in year 1. Keenan Allen is aging, but I think he'll stick around on a smaller deal because he gets to play with such a young star. But yeah, I mean, this will fill out their trio of wide receivers, probably the best wide receiver trio in the NFL.
Yeah,
if
honestly,
not close. He's got all the weapons. Caleb's got all the weapons he needs to succeed. There's no excuses. The only excuse and the only other pick I could see maybe occurring is offensive line.
Yeah,
just to give him another added protection. But I have Romo Dunes going at number 9.
Yeah, great pick. If he was available, I'd take him, but I'm going to take the guy that you picked at number 5. That's Malik Neighbors. I think he's really good. Like I said before, body control. He's big.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a stud, man. And that's another guy, just plug and play. Makes your receiving room that much better.
Yeah.
So Bears go 2 offensive guys there. Pick number 10, rounding out the top 10. Jets, Jets. Needs receiver, tackle, defensive line, safety. They got to keep A-Rod clean so he's not tearing his Achilles 5 seconds into the season like he did last year. The Jets just, to me, every year it's the same song. It's they're going to be so good. Yeah, they're one piece away. Yeah, they do this, they do that. Guy gets hurt, then they end up sucking. It's been like that for however many years. I mean, they haven't had a good full season in a while. And I have this guy. I think he's the odds-on favorite, according to the sports books, to be drafted here at 10. But I'll go second, obviously. But who do you have?
Yeah, I think, when Aaron Rodgers only plays, 3 snaps, I think, and he was rushed on all 3 snaps, you immediately, your mind goes to offensive tackle, or offensive guard. But then the Jets in the offseason, they lost Laken Tomlinson, who was their starting guard, who got paid a lot of money. And then they ended up bringing in, actually, a left tackle and Tyron Smith. He was an 8-time Pro Bowl selection. They only got him on a 1-year deal, which is kind of coincides with what Aaron Rodgers is going on. He's getting older. You never know what he's going to do. He could go off and into the darkness and take ayahuasca and never return. So I think they continue to try and build around Aaron. They addressed left tackle in free agency already. So what I have them is getting another weapon at number 10. And I think this fit is just so good for a quarterback who's had a successful tight end play in the past in intermediate routes. But I think Brock Bowers is the pick here at 10. I don't know what Ryan has at 10, but I just think Brock Bowers is going to be a really good weapon to add to A-Rod's arsenal. Honestly, I kind of think it would just simply be for fun purposes.
Yes.
I think it'd be kind of fun to watch that happen, but it also does make a little bit of sense. You build around Rodgers, you take one more stab at it. Like I said earlier, they addressed Tyron Smith at the left tackle issue.
Mm-hmm.
The defense was just fantastic. You look at guys like C.J. Mosley, crazy good linebacker out of Alabama.
Sauce is unbelievable.
Sauce is incredible. So you have the defensive pieces, but they just didn't have a quarterback. And so I think that they need to make the offense better, and they do that by getting Brock Bowers, who I think is one of the best, if not the best, actual football player. If you just think of football players, I think he's the best.
Echo. I got Brock as well. Phenomenal football player. He's like a Kyle Pitts, but he actually blocks. He's such a good player. Like you said, he's probably the best football player in this draft. He's super good. And what great tight end has Aaron Rodgers really had in his career? He didn't really had one.
They had Mercedes Lewis. He's had decent tight end play in the
Bob
past. Rob Tunyon. But they've always been decent. They've never been super electric, I don't think, unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, I don't think.
We're not Packers fans, so we wouldn't know.
Yeah, but I think Brock is a phenomenal football player. I think he'll do really well in New York, and that's a nice safety blanket for Rodgers to have.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move to another NFC North foe, the Minnesota Vikings, picking 11th, quarterback, tight end, guard, defensive line, defensive back. Are their main needs here in this draft? Where do you have them going here?
Yeah, at 11, since there's no trades, I still think that they're going to move up. But for the purpose of this mock, I have them, at 11 still. And if you watch the Lions and Vikings game, if they didn't have Nick Mullins at quarterback, they would have won both times.
Without a doubt.
And their defense is good. They really, they lost Danielle Hunter, though. They lost some people. However, you got to fix the quarterback issue. On draft night, you might see them move up to take somebody like JJ. However, right now, I'm just doubling down. I think they need a quarterback, and I have them taking Michael Penix. At number
I
11.
like it. That scares me though. I don't.
Yeah.
I like it, but I don't like it.
If you want a guy that can make any NFL throw, you can ask of him. It's Michael Penix. I've never seen a tighter spiral on a football.
Every time.
I've watched him live twice. Once when he was with Indiana, and then once when he came into Spartan Stadium and dropped 400 yards and a half. And if they would have kept him in all 4 quarters, he could have threatened 1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, he's unbelievable at throwing the ball. I don't think that the Vikings can afford to not come up with a quarterback in this draft. I think they should give up whatever draft capital necessary to move up to get one of the top guys. But they have to get one that Justin Jefferson they can sell Justin Jefferson on in the future.
Yes.
He is one of the best wide receivers I've seen in a long, long time, and they can't afford to lose him. So they need to get somebody that they can sell. And right now, the best available in my mind is Michael Penix.
Yeah, I completely agree. They're going to go quarterback here. I'm going to go with a guy that you already picked, had going. I think that Michael Penix is probably better than him? Yes, but I feel like Minnesota's fallen in love with him for whatever. It's JJ. I could see him trade. Not for him. You said that. But if he's there at 11 and they stayed put, it would be a no-brainer for him. Really good arm. He can scramble. He doesn't really make mistakes. But like you said before, the sample size is too small for me. Spoon-fed 15 10-yard outs in a game, that doesn't impress me. It never did. Like, Cade McNamara did the same thing at Michigan, and he's never going to play in the NFL.
Nope.
I think he is promise. He does. I think there's some untapped potential, but also I feel like his ceiling is low, and his high floor, low ceiling. I just don't know if he's gonna. I think he could be good, but I don't think he's gonna be an outer worldly quarterback in this league. I don't. But I think he's a solid pickup for him.
Yeah. I do agree with you. I do think somehow the Vikings, whether it's at
they're
5,
gonna get him. They're gonna do it.
I think they're gonna get JJ. They've fallen in love, and I could just see it happening. Whether it's at 11 or they move up.
Yeah. All right, 12. New jerseys. They look pretty heinous for the most part, aside from one, like their alternate. It's Denver Broncos. Sean Payton, year 2, number 12 here. Quarterback, receiver, center, edge, corner. The Russell Wilson experiment, well, to say it failed, that would be an understatement. He's in Pittsburgh now. Yeah. They just traded for Zach Wilson. Who else do they have? Jared Stidham. Those are their 2 quarterbacks. Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson right now. That's pretty hilarious. What are we thinking here? I feel like they could go so many different ways, and I wouldn't be surprised with, frankly, anything they do here.
Yeah, they kind of had a big salary dump, trading people, trying to. Wasn't it Cortland Sutton? Is he still there, or did they get rid of him?
I think he's still
there.
Might
have stayed.
Yeah.
Jared Judy's gone.
Judy's gone.
But they're kind of just hitting the reset button. When you grab, you put a big quarterback that had, he wasn't good, but he was paid a lot of money. And Russell Wilson, you drop him, you bring in not really anybody super big name. Locally, they brought in Josh Reynolds. For people who probably know Josh Reynolds' Lions. But they need everything.
Yes, they do.
They got a lot of people rehabbing. They need a quarterback. I could see a situation where they try and move up to get a quarterback.
Could see that.
Right now, as it stands, I actually have them taking Latu.
Yeah, great minds think alike.
He's an edge rusher from
so good.
Edge rusher from UCLA. Ended the season with, I want to say, 13 sacks in 12 games.
Just unbelievable numbers.
Yeah, he had crazy numbers. Great tackle for loss. Interesting story. Actually started his career at Washington, broke his neck, and then was medically not cleared to play for 2 years, year and a half, 2
Oh,
years.
I didn't even know that.
Nobody would take a chance on him. And then finally, UCLA took a trip down there. UCLA doctors cleared him. So he said, okay, I want to play, and decided to join UCLA's football squad, and it did not disappoint. But that right there is a big issue. We've seen injuries make people slide in the NFL draft. I mean, Nakobe Dean, he used to be
we thought it was going to be a
first-round pick. He ends up a third-round pick, right? Because of a shoulder issue.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a neck issue.
Yeah, that's
in
pretty
the
big.
trenches. So I can see him sliding. However, the production, he's a pure edge. He would start probably in the NFL as just you bring him in on third downs and say, go get the quarterback. They got a lot of pass rushing rehab going on. They need help. And I just think, the talent and the upside is kind of too good to pass up, because he could be one of those guys where it's generational pass rusher, or he could have medical issues.
Yeah.
But, the Broncos are rebuilding. You might as well take a shot.
Yeah, I agree. Echo everything. I like him. He's pretty good size, fast, good prospect. That's crazy how good Washington's recruiting. They had so many guys that have ended up being really good, whether it be at Washington or somewhere else. Kind of funny. Next, we move to Vegas. Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock. Quarterback, running back, guard, tackle, defensive line, linebacker, cornerback. Another team with just needs galore. Antonio Pierce was the interim last year. Takes over as the head ball coach this year. I like him. He's kind of a Dan Campbell type mold. I think they could go a few different ways, but I also have been hearing one rumor that they have fallen in love with some prospects here.
Yeah. I have them addressing, I think, a glaring need. I watched a decent amount of Raiders games, and they could not get the ball to Devontae Adams. They could not get the ball out to a lot of their weapons. So I actually have them taking Bo Nix at 13. I have them taking a quarterback. I truly think that they would move up to try and get one of the better guys, maybe JJ. But I like quarterback here. I think in the draft, when you have a glaring need at quarterback, people get jumpy. But then there is a saying, the draft doesn't start until the Raiders pick. They've done some crazy things in the past. So
always.
I could really, really see the case be made for anyone, the best player available at this point. I have them taking Bo Nix just because I think, they want to keep Devontae Adams happy, and they need somebody with a big arm to get him the ball.
Yep. I'm going to go with my number one quarterback available. I really do think they go quarterback. That was the rumor I heard. They're just very quarterback is their thing. Because Aiden O'Connell, was he solid last year? Yeah. Is he the guy that featured? No, he isn't. Michael Penix Jr., talked about him, drooled about him. I saw him complete 22 passes in a row against Michigan State when he was on Indiana. I was like, who the heck is this guy? Never even heard of him. And then just tears up at Washington. Great quarterback. He said injury history, but I think that he's a very humble. He's a really good guy. Very, very soft-spoken. Does he lead? Yeah, he can, but he's more of like a internal guy. But he's a gamer, man. He can make every pass, change his arm angles. He can move a little bit. The injuries scare me a little bit. He's going to be a good NFL quarterback. And you had him going to the Vikings. I pray to God he doesn't go to the Vikings because that would scare the living hell out of me. It gives me nightmares thinking about it. With what he did to Michigan State 4 different times as Indiana's quarterback and Washington's quarterback. So I think they go, Raiders go Michael Penix at 13. Brings us to the New Orleans Saints. Quarterback, receiver, tackle, defensive line are their needs. What are we thinking here? The Saints, I don't know what they are. They're weird.
They're weird, yeah. I think the biggest thing that they need, in my mind, is I think they need to replace an All-Pro. Ryan Ramczyk is tackle, and his injury is just getting worse. There's a potential of him, kind of like a Frank Ragnow situation.
Yep.
Potential of him to not play in the next couple years. So, if you truly want to build something back up and build from the trenches, you need to get offensive linemen. You need to get the right guys in there. I have them taking J.C. Latham.
Ooh, I like it. I like it.
So J.C. Latham is
Bama
going
guy.
to be one of the bigger human beings that you're ever going to see on the football field. I believe he is 6'6", 360 pounds. He is absolutely massive. Some say he's like 6'7". But he's a big dude. He's a plug-and-play left tackle. Ryan Ramczyk might be able to play next year, and you can maybe have a gap here where you can learn from him. But he needs a replacement, and I think that J.C. Latham could actually play guard if he needs to in the meantime. A little bit of position mobility, very good. But I think they just go with a really sure thing tackle.
Yeah, I was going back and forth whether I thought they'd go D-line or O-line. I think those two are the kind of the main things they'll do here. I think it'll either be a tackle or defensive line. And I'm going to go with a guy that I think he's the best defensive lineman available at this point. That's Jerzon Newton from Illinois. I like his measurables. Saw him play a fair amount from being in the Big Ten. He's fast. He's pretty strong. He's a big guy. And I think their defense has been off and on the last few years. They need a guy in the middle, and I think Newton's that kind of guy. And if he fell to the Lions and he was available, I would take him. He's a good player. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Illinois, they have another guy, Randolph and Newton. They called him the law firm. Good defensive lineman in this draft. But I could see New Orleans going tackle as well. All right, number 15, the Indianapolis Colts. Another team that it's kind of in the middle between a playoff team. They're a fringe team. They're last year Anthony Richardson got hurt. Gardner. Minshew led them on a really good season, almost made the playoffs. They were solid. What are we gonna go with here? Receiver and defensive back are their needs according to PFF.
Yeah, and that's going with the biggest needs. You have Michael Pittman returning. Quarterback is still going to be a question mark, I think. Mm-hmm. But I think the glaring need for me is going to be in the secondary.
Yes.
I think that because of, I believe they're in the same division, the Colts and the Texans, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so with the Texans, adding Stephon Diggs, with adding, they got Tank, and they have Nico Collins, and they have now C.J. Stroud, who was unreal as a rookie. They need secondary. They need to be able to trot out some guys. They already have a couple guys like Juju Brents and Kenny Moore. Mm-hmm. They have some good, but they need depth, and they need starting caliber young depth to be able to counteract some of those young guns over there. Because at the end of the day, if you're not winning 11 games, you're not in the wild card. So
especially in the AFC.
Yeah, especially in the AFC. So you've got to win your division, and I think this gives them the best chance. I have them taking Quinyon Mitchell. I have them taking him. He's great size. Mm-hmm. The only concern I have from him is the talent that he played against.
Yeah, he played.
But then again, we thought the same thing about Sauce Gardner. And then he comes in and balls out. But Quinyon Mitchell, he tested well. Incredible RAS score, which is the relative athletic score. And, he's really good, tested really good, played really good, and he's kind of been slotted as the number one corner in the draft.
Yep, I agree. I'm going Quinyon as well. He's big. He's physical. Didn't have a lot of interceptions, which, the guys say, it's a not. I mean, why would he have interception when he didn't get thrown at? When he gets thrown at, he's going to knock the ball away, force a receiver to the sideline, and make it an uncatchable ball. I mean, this guy is physical. He's big, fast. I think he's a surefire pick here, and I think he's the best corner in this draft, to be honest with you. Really good player, and I think that's a plug-and-play starter for the Colts.
Yep.
Immediately there at 15. Brings us to number 16, about the halfway point of the draft. The first round, Seattle Seahawks on the clock. Guard, edge, linebacker, safety are their top needs. Mm-hmm. What are we thinking here?
Yeah, I think, with the new head coach and Mike McDonald, his first year with the team.
Defensive
guy. I think that, they're bringing in a system which they have the guys, right? They have DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett is still on the team. You have decent tight ends. What is Colby Parkinson, Noah Fant? So you have guys, right? Jackson Smith and Jigba. You have some weapons.
Yeah, they have some nice teams.
Geno's okay.
K9.
K9 is fantastic.
Charbonnet
is good. However, they couldn't run the ball. Couldn't do it. K9 was great, but if you noticed, he was making jump cuts. The holes were not.
Looked like Michigan State all over.
Yeah, they were making the holes themselves. So Pete Carroll's gone. So the long tenured head coach, he's gone. They're bringing in Ryan Grubb as the offensive coordinator. Washington guy. So, with a key position of need, Washington guy coming in. I have another Washington guy coming in. I have Troy Fontenot from Washington. He's their starting left tackle, but also he can play guard. And I think he projects more of a guard in the NFL, but he can do both. And I think, it's very nice to have people that can do both on the offensive line. Washington connection holds true. They need to kind of, if they're going to ride the Geno train, they need to reinvest in him. And I think it's going to be a good long-term move because his positional versatility.
Yes.
With that guard and tackle. New OC in town. I think it's a good fit.
Yeah. I was between offensive line and defensive line for Seattle here. I think they go both. I ultimately decided on my favorite edge prospect that's left here in the first round, Jared Verse. Fast, powerful guy from Florida State. Started at Albany, of all places. Became an All-American at Florida State. He's a really, really good player. I think he's a very safe pick because he's really good. And I think the reason why I chose him to go 16 is because McDonald's a defensive guy. He wants to stock the cover. And their defense is kind of getting old. Especially up front. So
I think he's a sure thing. He's probably the most sure edge.
Yeah, he's a very safe.
Got a lot of upside. I think he has the highest floor.
Yes, I completely agree with that. I think he's a really good prospect, and I think he'd do some good things for Seattle. Brings us to 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars guard, edge, defensive back at 17. Disappointing season for the Jags last year. Were hyped to be really good, and they just kind of fell apart with some injuries, just weird stuff going on. But who do you think Jacksonville's going to target here at 17?
Yeah, they're, I think, just kind of going in the same route that the Colts went. You have to try and win your division.
Yes.
You have to try and make these things happen. They don't just organically occur. You can't just walk into a division win. I think they have the quarterback. I think they have the pieces. They have like a Christian Kirk. They have
good players.
They have good players, but
Travis Etienne.
Yeah, it is Travis. Trevor is the one in college.
Yeah.
Right? But they have guys on the offensive end. I do think that they need to reinvest defensively. Trent Baalke has already come out and said that, and he's the GM. He's already come out. Is he the owner?
He's GM.
GM. They've already come out and said that they need to address the secondary. So I have them taking what I think, would be a perfect fit for the Lions. However, I do wish that they trade up for him. But I think he goes here, and that's Terrion Arnold. He's going to be the number one corner from Alabama. He was very, very good. But C.J. Stroud is really putting the entire division on notice. And they've only improved since then. I think the Jags need to snag some secondary help to help slow down the Stroud boys.
Yeah. I think they're going to go corner. I have them picking Terrion Arnold as well. A really good player.
We got a very similar pick.
Bama. Great minds think alike,
Yeah.
Bama bred, coached by the best, Nick Saban. Can't miss him. I mean, he's really, really good. It's safe as well, I think, and they need help in that position big time, which is why I haven't drafted them. 18, the Bengals, another disappointing season due to injury. Burrow hurt last year. Browning tried to get into the playoffs, but ultimately fell short. What are we thinking here? 18. Good old Bengals.
Yeah, when you have a quarterback like Joe Burrow, you can kind of afford, especially with Jamar Chase still on his rookie deal, you can kind of afford to get away with, surrounding him with some not A-list guys, right? He'll make some people better. For example, Josh Reynolds for the Lions, he played out of his mind. He's not a number 2 guy.
No.
Played like a number 2, but he's not, However, I just think with the losses on this side of the ball, especially at the D tackle position, a.k.a. DJ Reader. Thank you for that. Detroit Lions will gladly take him.
Gladly.
But losing DJ Reader hurts, especially in the run game. He's an immediate double team. So I think they need to grab one of the best defensive linemen available. And I think that's Byron Murphy. I have Byron Murphy going 18. He's out of Texas.
Big fella.
He has a little bit more of pass rushing upside than I think his counterpart Tavondre Sweat had when he was at Texas. I think, to be able to unlock his true potential, he needs to have a good run-stopping defensive tackle to pair with. And the Bengals got one of those guys. They got Sheldon Rankins, who is a decent run-stopping guy. So I think Byron Murphy pairs well. Scheme fit seems right in its position of need.
Yeah, I like that. I was, again, between defensive line, offensive line, and I think they need to protect Joe. I really do. I'm going to go with coached up by our boy Jim Malakovich at Oregon State, and that's Talise Fuaga, nice. Oregon State guy.
Really good.
Really, really good tackle. He can play guard as well. The versatility of a lot of these linemen in this draft is really good. Probably the most versatile I've ever seen, honestly, in top of the draft. He's a really good prospect. I think they need to protect Joe, keep him injury-free, because when they've kept him injury-free, they've been really freaking good. And that's ultimately why I chose Fuaga to go there. He's 13th ranked prospect on PFF for a reason. 19, the Rams. The Lions knocked them out last year. Trying to get back. Aaron Donald is since retired, moved on. That's crazy to say. Mm-hmm. Their needs, quarterback, I guess that's to be a stopgap for Matt when he's done. Mm-hmm. Tackle, defensive line, linebacker, corner. What are we thinking our friends in LA are going to do?
If I'm not mistaken, I think Jimmy Garoppolo went there, right?
He might have. I think you're right.
I might be wrong, but I think I'm right.
Someone did. I don't remember.
I thought Jimmy.
Yeah, you're right. He did.
Okay.
He did.
So Jimmy Garoppolo is back over there, but I mean, you look at that. You got Stafford still, decent offensive line.
Yeah. Pretty young,
good enough. But I mean, you look at the wide receivers. You got Puka Nacua, who's unbelievable. Number
Cooper.
one. I mean, they got two number ones. They got Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Tutu Atwell's good. Ben Skoranek is serviceable. So you don't really need to go there. I'm not thinking they go offense. Like you said, defense. I mean, they lost one of the most impactful retirements ever.
Yeah, unbelievable player.
He's unbelievable, and I think that that just hurts them. They also lost Jonah Williams, who was a good edge player or a good defensive lineman. In free agency, they're bringing back a guy, Kobe Turner, who was a rookie last year, who was a surprise third rounder, had 9 sacks. But I mean, this was with Aaron Donald, and this is what I'm looking at is sack rate. They were 27th in sack rate.
Wow.
So if you can't get to the quarterback defensively, I mean, the whole talk was about if Stafford and them, they would have to keep up with the Lions, not stopping them. And you saw what happened. They could not stop them when it counted.
No.
They couldn't get there to the quarterback when it counted.
No, they couldn't.
So I have them taking, this is a guy that I think already came off your board, Jared Verse. With some of the notes that I have.
I like that pick for them.
With Aaron Donald retiring, they have some really big needs on defense. They got tore apart by the Lions in the playoffs, and they need to help stopping the run as well as getting to the quarterback. Luckily, in this pick, Verse can do both. Another popular pick at this spot would be Latu. He's more of a pass rush guy, but I think they need both. Aaron Donald's more interior, but Jared Verse he's big enough to go in sometimes. He's big enough to stand, or small enough to stand out. Crazy high motor. Same with Aaron Donald. I think he just fits a really glaring need. And he really helps that defensive line get back on track.
Yeah, I like that. If he was available, 100%, I'm going to go with the guy you just picked right before, Byron Murphy, big fella.
Yeah.
Fill that Aaron Donald hole, which will be a tall ask for them, but really good player. Played at Texas, obviously a team that was in the playoff last year, so high level. Is he going to be Aaron Donald? No, but he's good. He's good enough and to play right away. And they do have some good, young guys on that line, as you said, and he'll add to that. 20, Pittsburgh Steelers. Another season over 500, but disappointing yet again. Missed out in the playoffs. No, they did make the playoffs. I'm sorry. They made the playoffs. Mason Rudolph was their quarterback, didn't do jack against the Bills. Like, just they couldn't stop the Bills. They couldn't score. I don't know what they're going to do here. I mean, their glaring holes are receiver, which they haven't had a good receiver since Juju, and that was a few years ago, and that was like a flash in the pan. Center, tackle, corner. What are the Steelers going to do?
I mean, when you're running around like Kenny Pickett had to do, I don't think there's much you can do. I mean, was it Broderick Jones they drafted last year?
Yes.
They're the offensive lineman.
Yes.
They still need help. I mean, I'm looking at some of their offensive rankings. Total offensive efficiency, 29th. Explosive pass offense, 30th. Red zone blend, which means the difference between run and pass. They could not pass the ball. So they were 30th.
That's crazy.
They don't have, their yards per play expected is 30th as well. So they could not do anything. I think it really starts up front. In the offseason, such a weird offseason, grabbing Russell Wilson and then doubling down with Justin Fields. Yeah, that just shows me that it's going to be heavy run, right?
Yes.
I think Justin Fields is the upside. It's going to be heavy play action. Their wide receiver core is, George Pickens is good, but they don't really have many other guys.
Deontay Johnson, he's fine.
Yeah, and their offensive line, you're looking at, they got Broderick Jones as a right tackle. Well, guess what? I think they need a left. They need to double down. And so I have them taking Talis Fuaga from Oregon State. Absolute mauler. Great run blocker, but also is a great pass blocker. Very aggressive. Kind of reminds me of Penei Sewell in that way.
Yes.
I just like the fit. I like the fit culturally. I think he's a great run blocker, compare well with the style and scheme, especially with the heavy play action. He ran a similar system at Oregon State. And I think especially bringing in Russell, who's a good play action passer, and then Fields, who has running upside, they're going to be predominantly run this year. And I think it just helps to bring in some extra oomph.
I like it. I'm gonna go corner here.
Okay.
Nate Wiggins.
Oh, that's a good pick.
Long, fast guy out of Clemson. I think he pulled his hammy in the combine, if I'm not mistaken, but I think he's healthy now. Obviously, Clemson's had some really good players over the years. I think that continues here with Wiggins. I think he's going to be a nice player for them. Addresses a need. I could see them going offensive line as well. For Pitt, 21, the Miami Dolphins. Tight end, guard, tackle, defensive line are their needs. What are we thinking for the Dolphins?
I am thinking that they need defensive line help. Their defensive line, I'm looking at their depth chart on their defensive line, and it is, I don't like it.
Is Wilkins gone?
Wilkins is gone. Bradley Chubb is rehabbing from injury. Right now they have Zach Seiler, who's good, but the unit took a big hit with the loss of Christian Wilkins, Raekwon Davis. Zach Seiler, who I just mentioned, is the primary returning defensive lineman. He had over 800 snaps a season ago. Great pressure rate, but they just don't have guys. They got Deshaun Hand, Jonathan Harris, Neville Gallimore. They don't have big-name guys. Primarily offensive-laden team. I think that their offense is fine. They just couldn't stop a soul. I think they need to get tougher. I think they need to get bigger. And I think they need to get more athletic on defense. So I have them taking Chop Robinson.
Ooh.
Defensive edge. He's an edge defensive lineman from Penn State. They lost, I have the notes in here. I have Bradley Chubb and Christian Wilkins. Leaves a big hole on the line. Why not add an electric athletic freak with a big motor? He can really rush the passer. He has getting better at stopping the run, but he's just an athlete. He gets after it, high motor. He ran well. He tested well. Not as good as what I thought people thought that he was going to test, but he still did pretty well. And I just think that he kind of fits the need, and he brings a little bit of toughness and attitude as well.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I could see them going D-line. I'm going to say they go O-line, though. Fill that tackle spot. J.C. Latham, you touched on him earlier. He can slide around, play guard, play tackle. Really good prospect, big fella. Alabama linemen usually translate well in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a glaring need. Miami was 31st in pass block win rate.
That's
which
crazy.
Is not great, and especially with Tua's health and his head injuries in the past.
Yeah, that scares
I could totally
me.
see them going there.
That scares me. Yeah, let's what number is that? 21. Let's go to the Eagles. 22, receiver, linebacker, defensive back. What do they do?
Yeah, I just, this one I just kind of thought it fit well. I think it would be fun. I think it's a great fit, but big loss. Jason Kelsey retired. It's a big hit for them. So when I'm going off their offensive line, their center is Cam Jurgens and their right guard is Tyler Steen. So both of them are okay, but you're losing Jason Kelsey and you're losing Landon Dickerson.
Those are
huge losses on the interior. The tush push needs to stay. So what do they do? I have them going very versatile, and I have them taking one of my favorite plays in the draft is Graham Barton. Graham Barton can slide
Phenomenal
in.
Player.
He can play guard. He can play tackle, and rumored that he can actually play center. So if they really want somebody that's a guy that can be a backup and start, or he could start later on but be a backup right away, I think that he just you build. What I've noticed about Howie Roseman, who is the GM is for the Eagles, is that they go crazy in free agency and they try and fill needs in the draft.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to try and build from the trenches. You always see they take defensive linemen, they take offensive linemen. I think they double down and build for the long haul and get one of the better offensive linemen.
I could see that. I feel like they've done that in the past. I'm going to go with position of need on this board, and that's receiver. I'm going to say they go with Brian Thomas from LSU. Kind of a sleeper guy. Kind of rose into that first round discussion here in the last 5-6 months. Good player. Went with Malik Neighbors at LSU. I think he's got a pretty high floor as well. And fast, pretty good size, physical receiver. To go with A.J. Brown, to go with Devonta Smith, that's three-headed monster. Pretty damn good.
That's pretty good, especially with A.J. Brown kind of being rumored to be a little bit of a locker room issue.
Yes.
Devonta Smith's getting a bag. A.J. Brown's getting paid a lot. So they brought in a couple guys, Devontae Parker from the Patriots and Paris Campbell from the Colts. They brought in a couple cheaper veterans. So you want to have a good mix at wide receiver, get a good wide receiver on a rookie deal to fill in those gaps. I think that's a good pick.
Yeah. Vikings back on the clock at pick number 23 via Cleveland. Quarterback, tight end, guard, defensive line, DB, both addressed. Quarterback with their first pick back at 11. Where do our friends from the north go in the second with their second pick here?
Yeah, I think it's simple for me. They're losing a lot of pass rushing oomph. Daniil Hunter was unbelievable. He's gone. And I just think they need to replace him. They already got their quarterback. I'm going with Johnny Newton, Newton. I think that they lost Davenport, they lost Daniil Hunter, kind of hurts the pass rush, and you need to be able to get that defense back on track as a whole. I mean, you can't throw for 400 yards against the Lions and lose, right?
Yeah.
So if they want to build in the trenches and have this rebuild go off correctly, I think Newton brings both of those aspects into the rebuild.
I'm going to stick on the defensive side of the ball as well, but secondary, the best defensive back available. Is he a corner? Is he a safety? Is he a nickel? I don't know. Cooper DeJean, one of my favorite players in this draft via Iowa. Great punt returner, great corner, great safety, just a kind of a Swiss Army knife, jack of all trades, if you will. I just think he's really good. He's coming off an injury, which I think he would have been higher, honestly, if he didn't get hurt. The guy's a solid player, man. I mean, he's a winner. He's tough, really athletic, honestly. And I think he makes their secondary a little better, and he's a hitter too. So I think he'd be a really good pick for Minnesota at 23. Moving on to 24, almost there. Dallas Cowboys on the clock. Running back, receiver, center, basically a whole offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, corner are their needs. What are the the cheater's going to do.
I could not figure out a more confusing offseason.
Yes, weird.
I mean,
very
they
weird.
underachieved again, which it always seems like they have.
Yes.
And I just don't understand why they're not attacking some of their guys. I mean, you would think that with the name brand, they could do these things. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I think they need a tackle. They replaced Tyron Smith. And I'm going to go with a guy that has that was Ryan picked before. Very high ceiling, but a little raw. Olu Fashanu.
I can see that.
So he's going there. Really, really good raw from Penn State. Held up really good in the Big Ten, but there's some untapped potential, but I could totally see it going sideways as well.
Yeah, I agree. Same. I'm going to go tackle as well, guy. Best available, Troy Fautanu from Washington. The Cowboys have historically drafted good offensive linemen, and I think it continues here. They see him as a fit, versatile guy once again. Play multiple positions, played for a winner on the Joe Moore winning offensive line last year. And they keep it rolling. Fill the tackle void. Do the Cowboys. 25, our friends to the northwest, the Green Bay Packers. I hate them. Guard, tackle, defensive line, safety are their needs. What do the Cheeseheads want to do this year? They've drafted well as of late.
They really have. And they also, their defensive rankings last year, I'm going to roll through a couple of them. Total defensive efficiency, 26th. Pass efficiency on defense is 29th. Explosive pass rate given up, 27th. Explosive rush given up, 26th. Third down conversion given up, 27th. That's way over average in the NFL.
Very bad.
They are bringing in their backfield, I believe that they're bringing in Xavier McKinney, correct?
Yes.
And they have Jair Alexander.
Very
they
good
have
player.
Keyshawn Nixon, Eric Stokes. So they have some guys.
Yeah, they do have some nice players.
And I'm going to pick the most Green Bay Packers selection of all time. Ryan just made that pick. I'm going to pick Cooper.
Yep.
I think he fits perfectly. He play
looks
corner.
like a Packer.
He looks like a Packer. Fits the part. Can play corner. Can do safety.
Yep.
He can punt return. He can kick return. I just think that he's going to be a nightmare in the NFC North, and he's going to be a mainstay for a long time. He's just a heck of a football player. And at this point in the draft, at 25, you're getting a guy like Cooper DeJean, who would have been a top 15 pick if he didn't get hurt. Have you ever seen a more Packers player?
No, I agree. I mean, he's a Packers guy. All right. I am going to go offensive side of the ball to replace David Bakhtiari. Amarius Mims from Georgia.
Yep.
The guy's massive. He's huge. Georgia tackles haven't necessarily worked out in the NFL as of late, but I think that he's pretty safe. He's really good. I think they pick him there. They need help to fill that void that Bakhtiari's left. He was dinged up for a while, and they fill that now. Next, we've got the Tampa Bay Bucks on the clock. 26th, running back, tight end, center guard, edge, linebacker, cornerback for our friends down in Tampa Bay. What are we thinking here, Riley? Could go a number of different ways, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that, I noticed that they need... I think it was Clay Jensen was their center. Clay Jensen is retired or he's injured, so he's not there anymore. They got a glaring need at offensive line. Their depth chart doesn't look too great. Tristan Wirfs is really, really good, but he kind of needs a buddy. The rush efficiency, dead last. Rush expected play, dead last. Explosive rush, dead last. Total offensive efficiency, 22nd. Pass rush win ratio, 27th. They couldn't get the job done up front. I think they need a leader. They need a guy who's going to be plug and play. They need a guy who's going to be a captain level person. And I think this is a perfect fit. He can slide in right away. He can play guard if he needs to. He can play center. They drafted a Cody Monk, who is really
You
good.
get like 2 teeth.
Yeah, he's got like 2 teeth. He's great, though. But I have them taking a really great player, a guy I wish the Lions would take as a backup, as the successor for Frank Ragnow. But with Clay Jensen being hurt, Jackson Powers Johnson. I think he just a plug and play Pro Bowler right away. He can do it all. I just think the fit is really good, and it's a position of need.
I like that. I think that they struggled last year with rushing the passer a little bit. They're getting a little older. This is kind of a surprise pick. He's ranked pretty low, actually, on PFF. I really like him. It's Darius Robinson.
Oh, yeah.
From Missouri. He's big. He's got really long arms. He's pretty fast and athletic. I don't know. He just seems like a guy that can play inside out. He's, like I said, he's super athletic. And I think he's a little underrated in this draft. I really do. And I think that if he doesn't go late first, I think he can go early second, and teams would be very happy to have him. That's my pick. That's kind of my surprise one this round. Moving to 27, Arizona back on the clock via Houston. Receiver, touch on that with Maserati Marv earlier. Center, guard, defensive line, corner, or what else they are looking for here.
Yep, I have a guy that you already took earlier. I think he's the best corner available. And just a couple little quick snippets. Their third down conversion, the Cardinals last year, dead last. Total defensive efficiency, dead last. Pass efficiency defense, dead last. Pass EPA defense, dead last.
Yikes.
Yards expected, second to last. Rush efficiency, everything on defense is horrible. I'm looking at their corner situation, and it's just awful. I don't know. Sean Murphy and Bunty's okay, but then they got Starling Thomas, who was like a 6th-round pick. So they need a star. They need a guy. I think it's going to be Nate Wiggins. Like Ryan said earlier, long, lanky, and the Cardinals need really any healthy body they can get.
Yeah. I'm going to go corner as well. I think it's the best available on my board just in general. Kool-Aid McKinstry, a guy I wouldn't mind seeing in Honolulu Blue. Just another Bama guy. Has the injury thing, foot injury they found during the combine. He returned punts for Bama. He had a lot of interceptions. He's a really solid player. I think that Arizona would be very, very happy to have him at 27. 28, the Buffalo Bills. Another underachiever. They've lost a lot this offseason. Where are we going here for our friends to the East?
Well, they used to have, in the Buffalo Bills, they used to have Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and Khalil Shakir. Great offense. Dalton Kincaid, fantastic rookie season. However, they lost Stephon Diggs and they lost Gabe Davis, so they need to replace those people, especially with a high-profile quarterback like Josh Allen. I have them taking a wide receiver that kind of reminds me a little bit of Steph Diggs, and I have them taking A.D. Mitchell, wide receiver from Texas. They lost their core. They need to kind of build around Josh and get him more weapons. They need to retool. Their Super Bowl window's now. So as long as they have an expensive quarterback, they need to try and build around him.
Echo that. A.D. Mitchell, he's really good. He's a freak athlete, and they need it. Because otherwise their best receivers like the guy from Boise. I don't remember his name.
Khalil
Shakur or whatever.
Yeah, Khalil Shakur.
Solid player, but they need another guy. This is where the draft really starts. 29. The hometown team representing this year in the draft, the Detroit Lions. New Jersey's an all freaking sweet. Guard. This is what Pro Football Focus is: guard, edge, corner. I agree with that. I would just say offensive line, D line, DB, basically corner and receiver are their real needs. What are we thinking, Ryan? What do you think the strategy is going to be of Brad Holmes here? A really good drafter, honestly, in the last 3-4 years since he's been in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, I think a really good drafter. I think that really, I kind of have the trust as a Lions fan that they're just going to pick the best player available.
Yes.
I really don't know what he's going to do. I can't even predict.
I know,
it.
it's
he took Jahmyr Gibbs.
We're in the dark.
He took Jahmyr Gibbs, and I thought
he
they were
trade up for J-Mo.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what they're going to do. I would love for them to trade up and try and get a top corner, However, this guy just fell right into our laps. There's been some talk about Xavier Legette, who's a wide receiver from South Carolina. I think that would be a good fit, but I have them taking Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Would love it.
Look at some stats. Red zone defense, 30th. Third down conversion was actually okay prior to contrary belief. But their just pass defense was awful. They couldn't. They need
bad.
They need a bigger number one corner. I think Kool-Aid kind of fits that bill.
Yeah, and if he's there, pick him. If Cooper DeJean's there, pick him. If Nate Wiggins is there, pick him. If they're that high in their draft board, but the guy that I have on my board, he's number one for me right now. He can play guard. He can play center. Jackson, Powers, Johnson, Oregon. Guy's a mauler. He's versatile. He's strong. He just seems like a Detroit guy. Just culture-wise, he's a hard worker, and just seems like a good guy. And I think the Lions would be ecstatic. I think there'd be a lot of high-fiving in that war room between Dan and Brad and the rest of the guys, Rod, Sheila. I think it'd be pretty sweet. But I could see the Lions going, whoever they think is best available on that board, whether that be a receiver, a lineman, a defensive lineman. I trust Brad and Dan to make a good decision and one that's right for Detroit in the long run. Number 30, we're almost there. 3 more. Bear with us. The Ravens. Another disappointing end of the season. Didn't end up in a Super Bowl. Receiver, guard, tackle, edge, corner. Those are their needs according to PFF. I would agree with that. I feel like they draft a receiver every freaking year.
I know.
It's weird.
They drafted Zay Flowers, and he was good, but he's so unbelievably tiny.
Yeah, he's so small.
I could totally see if
what's the guy from Minnesota that they
Rashad Bateman.
Bateman,
and he didn't really work out. I could totally see them going Xavier Legette. I think it's kind of a scheme fit. Bigger body, can handle blocking because they like to run. They just signed Derrick Henry, and they're gonna commit to this run game, and they're gonna commit to the play action primary for Lamar Jackson. Keep him comfortable in what he is doing. But they lost Kevin Zeitler to the Lions, Morgan Moses, and John Stinson. They're all offensive linemen. I think they need to protect their big ticket guy. So I have them going tackle. I have them best available tackle, which is Amarius Mims. He needs to be able to anchor that right side. Ronnie Staley is there at left, so Mims will end up transferring over there to left tackle, but they start him at right to kind of get him used to the NFL speed.
Yep, I'm going to go tackles well. My best available one, Graham Barton. You touched on him earlier. He's a versatile guy. Can play really anywhere on the line. And, yeah, they need to protect Lamar. They do. Because he's a scrambler, but he shouldn't be running for his life on every single play.
Yep.
2 more, 49ers, Super Bowl runner-up last year, guard, tackle, corner. I feel like they could just draft. They're like the Lions. They can kind of just do no wrong. They kind of have free reign to do whatever they want here, honestly. What do you think?
I have them kind of building around their cheap quarterback right now and Brock Purdy. He has all the weapons that he needs. I just think their biggest need is offensive line right now.
Yes. I
think that they need to protect him. If they can keep him clean, they have an extremely efficient offense.
Yes.
So I think they draft a guy that I like, smooth mover. They build around Purdy, and Trent Williams can't really play forever. So I have them drafting Jordan Morgan.
Funny. So do I.
Tackle out of Arizona.
Big fella.
He is a big dude, and I think Trent Williams is getting old. They need other guys. Trent Williams is great, but they have guys like Spencer Burford, Colton McKivitz, who's okay, Jake Brendel, Aaron Banks. They just don't have the names that they used to. So I think Jordan Morgan comes in. He can go at either guard spot, or he could go at right tackle, and I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, I like it. They need to fill a void in the offensive line. Like I said, they're getting a little older at spots. Trent Williams is generationally good, but he's getting up there. 32, last one of the first round, the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Once again, needs receiver, which they really need now with this Rashee Rice incident that's happened in the last couple weeks, this development, tackle, defensive line. I know exactly what they're going to do here.
Yeah, I would like to. I would like to put $5 on Ryan and I having the same pick. I don't know what he picked, but we've talked about it before. I have them taking Xavier Worthy from Texas. He's an absolute burner. I call him Tyreek Hill light.
Yes.
It's a depleted wide receiver core, which is kind of wild to think. But if you want to keep Patrick Mahomes winning, you want to keep everything on the same page. Travis Kelce's not going to be there forever. Rashee Rice, that whole situation. He was a blossoming star. Couldn't keep it together. So I think they go Xavier Worthy. And also, if Xavier Worthy went earlier, A.D. Mitchell would fit a perfect spot here too.
Yeah,
So.
I think there's a receiver is where I believe they're going to go here, and I second. I mean, we talked about it before. It's Xavier Worthy. He's a clone of Tyreek Hill, almost one of the fastest 40s ever. He's pretty small, but can he burn? And he's really good pass catchers. Can return punts, all that good stuff. I like it. I think that would be a fit, but I think just any receiver in general. I mean, I could see Troy Franklin. He's up there.
Yeah.
Xavier Legette. There's a lot of good names up there that they could go with, and that is the first round, brought to you by Ryan and Riley, 4 years running. Let's finish up. We have one Mitchapalooza that's Lions draft-esque. And we kind of touched on it, but I wanted to answer it. Do you think the Lions go luxury or foundational in the end here with this first round pick? And we both said kind of foundational with the offensive line. I really do think that's where they end up. And Andy also says foundationally. He wanted his answer given for that. He thinks offensive line or D line as well. Let's sprint this bad boy home here and then finish the way we always do. Who do you think could be the biggest bust in this class?
The biggest bust, I think, just because of the name alone, I think if it doesn't work out and all the pressure on it, I think the biggest bust could be Caleb Williams.
Caleb.
I think he's going to be really good. I truly do. But if he doesn't work out, that would be a generational bust.
Yes.
So just on premise alone, I think he could be the biggest bust. If I had to take a close second, I'd probably pick J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, we great minds think alike, because I said Williams. I think that he's either going to be really good or he's going to suck. I don't really think there's going to be an in-between for him. And I think JJ, if he gets drafted top 5, I think he's going to end up being a bust. If he's anywhere from 10 to 25, I think he doesn't end up being one. Who's your guy that just you think is just completely flying under the radar? Could be a first rounder, could be someone later in this draft. People aren't talking about enough.
I think one that people aren't talking about enough that's probably going to go in the second round, but was originally projected like the 4th round, is Braden Fisk.
Love that guy.
One of my favorite players.
Western.
Originally a Western Michigan guy, transferred to Florida State. Super productive. Just an absolute animal. He gets after it. Credible athlete. Ran a great time. Just the way he moves at the size that he is, watching the combine. I think he's really under the radar, and I think he's going to make a team really happy.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm just going to go with the obvious first round. Cooper DeJean, I think that he's going to be a steal for whoever gets him on their squad. 2 more here. Biggest man crush in this draft?
Oh, my biggest man crush is Brock Bowers. I think that just because I played tight end, I've just never seen somebody that big, that fast, that strong.
So gifted.
He's just a gifted athlete. Football player wise, he does everything you need. He blocks, he catches, he runs away. He makes safeties and corners look slow, and he's doing it at 6'5", 240 pounds. So
he's unreal.
I just think he's going to be super fun to watch, and I really like him.
Yeah, I like that too. My guy is who I picked the Lions to draft, Jackson Powers Johnson. I just think he oozes Honolulu blue. Could be a guy. Could be a dude.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your biggest DND, a.k.a. do not draft?
Oh, man. I feel like there's a
decent I feel like amount. There are a decent amount.
Do not draft. I got 2 of them. I think one of them. I'll go with one of them. T'Vondre Sweat.
He had the DUI, did he not?
Recently had a DUI, and the reason why I say do not draft is he in his interviews with the teams, he came out and said, "I was a big part of your freshman sophomore year."
That's always
all
good.
of that stuff.
That's smart to
all
say.
that stuff is behind me. I'm a different person, and then he goes out and gets a DUI. He slid from the 30th around the 30 pick down to like 90, and he's just and another guy I think was in the first round and has gone really downhill is Kamari Lassiter. He's a corner from Georgia. I really liked him for the Lions at 29. But
then he saw his measurables.
He ran like a 4.6, and he's super slow, and he just doesn't look the part. And
That's
one of the worst pro days I think that guy could have ever had. So I'd probably go T'Vondre Sweat from Texas, but then I'd go with Kamari Lassiter.
I said Lassiter. I mean, we thought before we ran, like, man, like that guy's a late first rounder, could be a steal, played at Georgia. And then he runs, you're like, okay, that's slow, but maybe a pro day, terrible. His measurables weren't great. I know that's not what it's all about, but I'd stay away from that.
Especially in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, if he third round, you take a flyer on him, like, he could be good, fine, but whatever. All right, that is the 171st edition of the pod, draft special. 4th year running. Riley, thanks for coming on as always. We appreciate it. All your good knowledge. We love it. And I will finish with a quote as my father does each one. It's not really a quote. It's kind of what a man by the name of Sonny Weaver Jr. famously wrote on his sticky note in the movie Draft Day. Vontae Mack, no matter what.